The architecture trend dividing London's elites.
This is Queen's Freddie Mercury on September 19th, 1980. And next to him is lead guitarist Brian
I have to
May,
pee, I'll be back.
who in July 2021 returned home to find his Kensington, London home flooded.
Covered in black sewage, sludge.
He blamed the basement building that has been plaguing this area for the past 10 years. From 2008 to 2019, 7,328 basements were added to homes in London. Basements not just for the rich, but the super rich. All of these dots represent private underground swimming pools, and cinemas, and wine cellars. Click to London's top luxury realtors, sort by price, and you'll find underwater playgrounds and theaters. Homes like this £25 million one with 2 basement levels, including a bar and spa. London's elite are building underground layers.
It's an interesting kind of conflict between these different, very, very wealthy people. Or as we said, I think in one paper, we say it's a conflict between the haves and the have-yots. I'm Professor
Let
Roger
them
Burrows.
fight.
I'm Professor of Cities in the School of Architecture, Planning and Landscape at Newcastle University. But I'm not an architect, nor am I a planner. I'm essentially a sociologist and a statistician.
Do you remember how y'all got the idea, though? Was it literally just you're walking down the street, you see a ton of construction trucks all the time, and you wonder, why is there always construction on this street? And then you say, oh, I bet they're making a basement.
Exactly. We were doing a case study of 4 or 5 different neighbourhoods in London, and we were interviewing residents about what was happening in the neighbourhood. We would notice as we were doing this, streets with 5 or 6 of these excavations going on at the same time, with lorries moving up and down. And indeed, the people that we're interviewing really just wanted to talk about it because they felt that their neighbourhood was being ruined.
Chat, what I'm eating is the same thing I eat every fucking day. I either eat chicken that I pre-made, okay, that I heated, or a fucking salad bowl that has beans, rice, chicken, avocado, tomatoes, that sort of thing, okay, and lettuce. It's literally always the same. You ask me every day, and I have it with a side of Quest chips, okay? You ask me every fucking day, and it's always the same. It's never going to change. I have pretty much the most, in the words of William Neff, the most autistic eating schedule, okay? That's fine, and I love it. It gives me comfort to eat the same food every day. I know the calories of it, and that's it. But the other part of that is that you don't have to ask me every day. It's the same food every day. That's it.
Each borough in London has a planning commission where people have to submit renovation plans. Burrows and his co-authors searched every application and found all the basements and then mapped them.
But mostly it's concentrated around the great parks, around Hyde Park, Kensington, Chelsea, and Hammersmith and Fulham.
Brian May's house in Kensington had an original half-underground floor. Suddenly, his neighbors were all building basements of an entirely different scale. A well-off neighborhood became extremely well-off.
Transnational elites were literally burying millions and millions of dollars in the ground.
So this isn't as much of a thing in America. Do you have a sense why that is? Is it the historic codes in London?
You can't really change the outside appearance of a property. You can't build a loft out and you can't extend at the back. But because of...
I bet fucking Yimbies love this shit too, even though it low-key is just for rich people. And by the way, those zoning laws, I know people are going to get fucking frustrated. I know people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but it unironically is the reason why the cities look the way they do. And it's not a bad thing. I don't think that it's a bad thing that city planning that has worked in London, especially since the fucking Roman era, should be changed. The problem is that if you are going to build newer housing blocks, You should focus on council housing, social housing, public housing, whatever you want to call it. And those should be adequate and not, corner cutting, cost cutting, and in some instances, fucking deadly.
The freehold laws, you own all of the land under the property, so you can burrow down. A lot of it is also geological. New York is another kind of world city where you might expect these things to be occurring. They happen a little bit in Brooklyn, but you're literally trying to mine out rock. The great thing about London is, of course, it's clay, so it's very easy to dig down and generate these spaces.
Burroughs and his co-authors mapped standard, large, and mega basements.
And what we call mega basements are 3 stories or more, or 2 stories, but which extend beyond the envelope. We find 118 of those, and they're on a ginormous scale.
This map shows their concentration in wealthy neighborhoods. The combination of incredible wealth and inflexible exteriors led to massive basement builds.
Wine cellars, gyms, art galleries, ballrooms, panic rooms, gun stores.
In the late 1800s, a ship owner named Charles Booth started tracking inequality in London, a gradient that he mapped from wealth to poverty, compiled through extensive surveys.
There is now a clear, what I would call, basement belt in London, and concentrated within particular neighborhoods and particular streets. So I think it is a physical manifestation of gross wealth inequality.
In the mid-2010s, London boroughs began to curb permits for multi-level basements because of resident concerns, like those of Queen's Brian May. The consequences are more than just flooding. Deep digging can cause structural collapses, but basement construction hasn't stopped completely. Gianluca Vialli was one of the best Italian strikers in the 1980s and 90s. When he moved to London in 1996, his legend only grew as he moved into management. He helped lead Italy to win the Euro 2020 final. In 2020, he appeared in the lower right corner of a video conference stream, begging the Kensington and Chelsea Applications Committee not to let his neighbors expand their basements after he'd lived through earlier construction.
The noise pollution and the air pollution has been unbearable. I beg you not to give them permission to do that. No one can be successful
They caught him in 1P.
unless they make the life of everyone else around them a nightmare.
Today, his neighbor's house is for sale. It's lavish. There's also one major selling point. The planning board has granted permission for a basement excavation.
This is such a weird, hyper-specific problem. I love that. What a strange thing to do an article on. Love that.